Hello, so my name is Melissa Dao, and I'm a fourth year medical student at St. Joseph University in Beirut, Lebanon. And I will be presenting our work with Dr. Samar Hello from Osaka University in Japan, Dr. Janine Hello, Dr. Charlene Hashim, and Dr. Eli Hello from St. Joseph University in Beirut, Lebanon. Our work is entitled Ensuring Care Continuity in Extreme Crisis, and it is a participatory action research approach. In fact, our country, Lebanon, has been facing major crises. First, we have been facing financial crisis with the depreciation of our country's currency, leading to waves of hyperinflation and increasing the poverty in our country. Also, we have been facing socio-political instability with the nationwide anti-government protest that began in 2019, and also another major crisis that happened on the 4th of August 2020, when a massive explosion happened in the port of Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, and killed more than 200 people and left more than 6,000 wounded and led to a catastrophic and widespread damage. And finally, we are facing the COVID-19 pandemic that is not only a health problem, but also an economic one and a social one, with all the lockdowns and the cessation of non-urgent elective procedures. So, to sum up, the Lebanese population and healthcare system have been facing immense new stresses. And with a lack of reliable future expectation and a continuous state of chaos, both patients and physicians, well, are trying their best to ensure the continuity of care. So, our study aims to first examine the impact of overlapping major crises on care continuity, and second, to propose IT-based solutions to address current challenges and to build future resilience. To these ends, we adopted a participatory action research approach, and as its names imply, it's the participation of different stakeholders in a process of research that could eventually lead to social action in order to transform the current reality into an aspired one through the simultaneous process of doing research and taking action. Our study was a two-phase qualitative study. So in the first phase, we conducted semi-structured interviews with 6 different physicians, and it was face-to-face or online at about 15 to 30 minutes each in order to gather data on the impact of those crises on the continuity of care. And after that, 2 researchers did a thematic analysis using the method of Brown and Clark in order to identify themes describing both the consequences and the adaptation mechanism. The second phase was about future workshops with participants from different domains. We had medical interns, physicians, health economists, informaticians, and they proposed IT-based solutions to address those current challenges. I will discuss the results of our study. So first, our analysis of the interviews resulted in 16 themes that fall into 3 main categories. The first category is about the primary consequences. In fact, the financial crisis led to the decrease in purchasing power and the rising in healthcare costs, while the COVID-19 pandemic led to the fear of contamination and hindered geographical access. And finally, the socio-political instability led to the feeling of insecurity, damaged home and healthcare centers, and record immigration. The second category was about the consequences on the continuity of care. In fact, we had postponement and even cancellation of follow-ups, which led to a delay in disease management. And also, paradoxically, we had an increase in healthcare demands from expats because due to the depreciation of our country's currency, it was cheaper in Lebanon than outside Lebanon. And also, we had advancement of scheduled procedures because people in Lebanon were afraid that those procedures will be even more expensive later on. And all these effects were disproportionate on certain populations. Finally, the third category was about adaptation mechanism. In fact, we had an increased use of generic and cheaper drugs, we had prioritization of healthcare needs and an increased demands for affordable services. And finally, due to the hindered geographical access, we had a rapid adoption of telemedicine. Now for the result of the future workshop. So the future workshop began with the presentation phase where the facilitator presented the result of the interviews. And following this presentation phase, the workshop participants brainstormed the problem that could have contributed to the discontinuity of care. And in this critique phase, they used the knowledge that they gained through their personal experience during those crises and the new knowledge that they acquired from this presentation. After that brainstorming session, they categorized the problems and choose to a category to focus on. So the category that we had was where the government-related problem, the people-related problem, and the policies and organizations-related problems. After the critique phase, the group decided on their category and they moved to the fantasy phase. So in the fantasy phase, they first imagine a utopic situation, and using this vision as a reference, they brainstormed and discussed solutions that could transform the current reality into their imagined utopia. And the third workshop used these results of the first two workshops as a starting point to translate these ideas and generate practical and tangible solutions. Some of the solutions are, so for example, for the population-related problems, we propose to identify and prioritize fake news, for example, using an application in order to decrease the spread of fake news. Another example was about the fear of generic drugs. So we propose to create a public database for locally manufactured generic drugs, where patient and physician can gain information and knowledge and write also reviews about the drugs. Now, for the policies and organizations related problems, for example, we can create a platform where people can exchange unutilized medical supplies in order to give a solution for the lack of access to certain drugs and equipment. Also, to decrease the disproportionate effect on certain population, we can publish easily accessible schedules, location, and fees for low cost or even for free medical services. And finally, in order to adapt more telemedicine, we can, for example, equip each rural municipality with a teleclinic where we have high-speed connection and a computer in order to do the remote teleconsultation. Now that we have discussed the results, I will pass to the discussion. In fact, as our research was an participatory action research approach, so participants in our study were treated as co-researchers rather than subjects, and their feedback was mainly positive. In fact, they noted the importance of our topic as a major challenge that they are currently experiencing, and also they believe that their participation is a contribution to potential solution, even though there was also a general belief that the problem may be very complex to solve without the participation of the government. Even though this project was conducted during the quarantine due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we were able to successfully conduct the interviews and workshop using online tools, and these were very important facilitating factors for our study. Also, the fact that some of the solutions proposed were inspired by already existing initiatives also was a very important facilitating factors. However, we encountered some limitation when conducting our study. In fact, first, the participants of the workshop were not all familiar with the design, so the facilitator had to extend the session, which led to a very long workshop, and some participants lost their interest at the end of our workshop. Also, the use of Jamboard for the brainstorming session allowed all the participants to see each other sticky notes, and this limited their available space. So to address those limitations, we have some recommendations for future researchers. First, we can choose participants who are familiar with the design, or we can conduct pre-workshop trainings for participants. Also, the choice of online tools to conduct need to consider the creativity of the participants. Also, we have to increase the number of participants, and we can mainly include patients, particularly disadvantaged ones. And finally, our workshop ended at the fantasy phase, as our goal was to generate ideas for solutions that could be later on pursued and implemented. So in order to break the cycle of producing research with little action, the next step and the future work could add an implementation phase where we select ideas using common multiple criteria decision-making methods. And also, once top ideas are selected, we can transform these ideas into reality using prototypes. And finally, we can also go to the last step, which is the readjustment step, in order to analyze and to continually adjust our method as needed. So in conclusion, the inclusion of stakeholders of the local healthcare system in a participatory action research project can result in a very important understanding of the implication of major overlapping crises on the continuity of care. And our experience suggests that these workshops can be used in order to increase the resilience of the healthcare system. While future work can aim also to include other stakeholders and to turn proposed solutions into realities. Thank you. And for any other question, please do not hesitate to contact us via those emails. Thank you.